Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. Why the hell am I in my car? I know. Ironically, there's a good story to this. There is nowhere in my house I can record without some fucking jackass screaming in the background. I've done this video quite some time, so I expected, with all the practice I've had inside the house, that it'll be, pretty good. Also, I thought I can look like, oh, you already know who I thought I could be like. I actually really like his channel. But right now, for this discussion, we're going to be talking about the four major archetypes that are coming out, or that have came out of the new set Duelist Alliance, and it'll be extremely interesting to go into them, especially after I've seen all four of them play, and they do it very, very well. First, we're going to be talking about Shaddolls. Let me scroll up. Now, Shaddolls is they're interesting. If you ask me, they're the most overrated deck in the pack. Why? Because Shaddolls aren't tier 1, like in the essence that there are no other decks that can compete with Shaddolls. Shaddolls are very easy to compete with when you play dedicated builds or certain decks, but they are a top deck. They are a #1 deck. And then there's some matchups where Shaddolls have an easy matchup against. There's some matchups where Shaddolls have a very hard matchup against. Not really going to go into that right now because, like I said, this is just a preview of all the decks I'm going to be doing on my channel. Shaddolls are based off of fusion summoning and flip effects. Now, never in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! There's ever been a deck that is focused on both of these concepts and be competitive at the same time. Shaddolls, and that's what I really like about Shaddolls, is that they bring a new twist to a format using flip effects, and on top of that, you're using fusion monsters. That's really, really, really good. And I'm excited to actually be doing a saga on this deck. The biggest two reasons why Shaddolls can stay in competition is because of Shadow Construct and El Shadow Winda. Now, I feel that Winda is more the appropriate card because Construct is great, but Construct doesn't really win you games. Winda does. The biggest thing about Winda is that it can't be destroyed by card effects. That a 2200 body, I mean, it's okay. 5 stars, it's okay. But the biggest point right there is that it can't be destroyed by card effects. Now, when I say that, I'm actually happy that Winda does exist because it does put a kill off to Hat. And Hat is the only thing they do is destroy cards on your opponent's turn, namely like Firehand if you enter battle, Moral Attack, which is their signature card, the trap tricks, because the trap tricks are just, they get the bottomless, they get whatever they want, and then they can destroy. Wind up, and that's what really was the essence of last format. Well, I'm not saying that Hat was the ultra competitive tier 1 mega deck, but Hat did play a part. So I really feel that Winda and the Shaddolls will practically kill off whatever's left of Hat. It'll just be an unfavorable matchup, and hands will drop in demand, not only in demand, but in price as well. So if you guys ever wanted hands for the future, then go ahead and pick them up. And within the next couple of weeks, once hands start becoming, less and less competitive. And that's what Winda really does. She herself is going to change the format because everybody's going to be hopping on the Shadow hype, and Shaddolls are not really a bad deck. They're a pretty good deck. The best deck? No. The good deck? Yes. The next things that Shaddolls have is El Shadow Construct. Now, I don't know why Konami decided to change both of those names. They could have stayed where they're at, but sure, it's whatever. Construct is a very interesting Shadow monster because it requires a light monster, which it's really good because Super Poly becomes one of the most amazing cards for this deck. I just actually came home from my locals last night. We were having a Duelist Alliance box tournament, and then the final round, what decided the second game of the match, is that the Shadow player, Super Poly, the Burning Abyss players, Pleiades, and it was just game over from there because not only did the Shadow player get a 2800 body, they were allowed to just basically dominate the game from there because the Burning Abyss player did put resources into that Pleiades, and the only thing the Shadow player had to do was plus neg, because you guys already know, when you Super Poly, you're discarding a Shadow monster. Whoa! So wow, much wow, like that matters because they're gonna still gain effects. And that's like the killer, which El Shadow Construct is, that people don't remember that Super Poly is a card, and that fusing with your opponents out of the field is it wins games. It's just nothing else about that. Another thing about Construct is that it does have a 2800 body, and it does send monsters to the graveyard. Also, if it battles a special summon monster, it's destroyed by its effect. So those are really good. They have a lot of just great card effects overall, but I think the one that I'm going to point out isn't necessarily the lower level ones. I'm gonna point out actually one that normally people wouldn't put out, which is El Shaddol, or no, I'm sorry, not El Shaddol, Shaddol Beast. Shaddol Beast is when it's set and flip face up. You draw 2 cards and discard 1 card, so it's a Graceful Charity. And when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, it draws 1 card. Now, there's so many games where I've seen Shaddol Beast become so clutch because it gives the Shaddol player what they need to get what they want, to get something, and then they have to discard 1 card, which is like, I don't even understand why that's a cost for Shaddolls. They're gonna gain the monster's effect. So Shaddolls are a really, really good deck. I don't place them as the best deck of the format. I do place them as a contender, though. The next deck I want to talk about is Tellarknight, also known as Tellarknight. Now, Tellarknight are a series of warrior monsters based on rank 4 summoning. They are similar to Constellars, as Wikipedia does say, but the Shaddolls, or I'm sorry, not the Shaddolls, the Tellarknight are, if you would ask me, they're bad. If they ever win a YCS, uh, I don't fucking know what to say. But until then, I definitely think that they won't. But, but, there is a really good combo that a good friend of mine pointed out, which is if you look at Tellarknight, they have 2 extremely good cards. One is Tellarknight Deneb, the other one is Tellarknight Altair. Now, I'm not going to go into depth about the dude's deck because he's going to a regional, but those are the only 2 Tellarknight monsters that he uses into his deck, and it is a pretty competitive deck. It does revitalize a set deck that I've mentioned before that, can't really make an impact on the meta right now, but it's really good, and I think that he'll place pretty well into the tournament just because of the Tellarknight, Deneb, and Altair. If you guys did not know, Deneb is basically a Stratos for Altair, and Altair is special summons Deneb from the graveyard. So it's basically you get a Wolf Bark Stratos play, which is just pretty dumb when you add it. That if you call out a Hunted Deneb, or I'm sorry, call it a Hunted Altair on your opponent's turn at the end phase, obviously you get the special summon Deneb, then you get the search the Altair, and then on your turn you get the XC for whatever you want. You don't have to exceed into a Tellarknight monster, which would be the only way you would be able to attack. The next deck I want to talk about is Burning Abyss. Now, Burning Abyss is, oh my god, this deck, I actually really, really like this deck. Burning Abyss are a series of fiend monsters that are based off of Dante's Inferno, or I'm sorry, Inferno, as you guys will know. And these monsters come from the gates of hell. Now, to add a pun to it, I guess Kazuki Takahashi made them all tour guide targets. Get it? Because tour guide special, she's from hell. She's like the guide to hell, but she brings out dudes from hell. No, you guys don't. Okay, it's fine. You don't have to get it. But so far, there are only 4 monsters, which the deck still plays extremely well. And we can look at the deck. There's still going to be a lot more cards coming out for this deck, hopefully. Just like I said, or a series of level 3 Fiend monsters that are all tour guide targets, that when they're sent to the graveyard, I'm sorry, if they're sent to the graveyard, they don't miss timing. You can gain their effects. 1 special summons from deck, 1 special summons from graveyard, 1 searches a Fiend monster, it doesn't even matter, from the deck to the hand. Dante, he mills 3, not necessarily mill, but he sends 3 to the graveyard. He gains 500 attack for each, and then after he attacks, he switches to the defense. But the biggest thing about Dante is that he is a light warrior monster with level 3. Now, if you play any rank up magic cards, you can go into an instant Pleiades with 4 material. That's not even 4. My apologies, 3 material. That's pretty dope. Anytime you can get a monster with 3 material out on the field, a Pleiades with 3 materials, that's 3 bounce cards. Pleiades is a threat. Now, they have a whole bunch of other rank up cards to go into, like Bram when you do Alucard, or just like anything that's special. They have so many special things that they can do. So I really want to take an eye on Burning Abyss. I want to do them for in October when I have my Halloween special. Throughout the whole of October, I'm going to be playing decks like Burning Abyss, Dark World, X amount of deck, and I really wanted to. But if I'm forced my hand, I probably will pick Burning Abyss up first before I pick up any of the other decks, and then do a saga on them. The last deck is what I like to call Master Race. We don't necessarily call this deck what it is. We just call it Master Race, and that is Yang Zing. Now, the reason why I call Yang Zing Master Race is because I feel that they are the best deck in the pack. Yang Zings are freaking dumb. It's just they're just they're really, really, really good. It's a deck of floaters that special summons other floaters, that synchros on your opponent's turn, that makes the floater monsters that you use unaffected by certain cards. Oh my god, this deck is good. This deck is just amazing. That, and it works so well with skill drain because your Big C makes your monsters unaffected by trap cards. And I know I'm the only person that probably knows all of the monsters' name. That's how much I love Master Race Yang Zing. But Yang Zing are a monster that, like I said, are a floater type deck that when they synchro summon, they gain certain effects. Like, for example, if I use Big C, Paolo, Sani, and Bayan, the monster is unaffected by spells, traps, cannot be destroyed by battle, and it gains 500 attack. So imagine putting that on a Leo. 3600 attack, can't be destroyed by spells and traps, can't be targeted throughout his own effect, and can't be destroyed by battle. That's a game winner right there. There's nothing else that the opponent can do. That monster, Leo, just becomes unstoppable. And anytime you can make unstoppable fields, or even summon the other, our only Cosmic Dragon I haven't talked about, which is Boxia, the bounce cards from our opponent's side of the field. If you have Skill Drain face up and you use Big C to summon Boxia, bounce cards to your opponent's deck, and they can't use their monster effects to stop you, deck's pretty busted. The only problem with it is that they can miss timing. They are a little slow, and I feel like I need to playtest a lot with them before I even want to say that they're the best deck. Because Shaddolls, Tellarknight, both Shaddolls and Tellarknight were putting in a lot of work. Burning Abyss actually came in second in the box tournament, so Yang Zings have a lot to stepping up to do to keep up with these decks. But I still feel that they are the strongest deck in the pack. With that being said, thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. I will be doing sagas on all 4 of these decks. Only time will tell. I want to see which you guys think I should do a saga on. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.